in the building.
Street executives.
Georgia Muscle Rock.
DJ. Technique.
What's happening, everybody? Of course, it's your host, Brink Young, and you are tuning in to the most award-winning talk show in Memphis, Mobile, Mid-South, all over. Of course, I'm talking about BrinkTV, and the trophies are behind me, you know, my co-host, you know how we do. But anyway, without further ado, we got a brand new face to the show tonight, and I'm talking about one of my new friends because, hey, he's a film director. He's a writer, producer, all of that. And, of course, y'all know me. I'm trying to get into the same thing. Mr. Anwar Jamison. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing all right. How you doing, Brink?
I'm doing wonderful. First and foremost, I got to say thank you for coming on the show. It means a lot to have you here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Believe that, believe that. Now, like I said, we got plenty to talk about because I gave you so many illustrious titles, and I don't even know where to start. But what we can do, we can start. Where are you from exactly?
And I'm originally from Racine, Wisconsin.
Okay.
About an hour from Chicago, and everything that comes with that in an hour from Chicago. So I found my way to Memphis originally when I went to college.
Okay.
Went off to college when I was 16. Graduated
Wow.
school
16?
early. Yeah, man, that's a long story.
Whoa.
But,
we got a genius on the couch.
But
okay.
but yeah, so I was down here, Richardson Towers represent. What up?
Yeah.
You know, that's funny. I'm actually in the first class, University of Memphis. That's historic. We had the T-shirts and everything to prove it.
Yeah.
For that first year when it switched from Memphis State to the University of Memphis.
Yeah.
That was us. So,
Okay.
I ended up down here, and I just loved Memphis, man. It was, it was already a second home because of my family, but just culturally and everything going on with it, I was like, this is home. I'm here. So I've been here ever since. So I went back home briefly and came back in 2000 to stay.
Got you. That's amazing. Now, in addition to, like I say, all of those duties, you're also actually a college professor as well, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, what do you teach, man?
Man, I teach film.
Okay.
Well, digital media. I'm over the digital media program,
Gotcha.
ASU Mid-South. So I primarily teach the film classes, but I teach some of the audio production. Some of the graphics is needed, but the film is my specialty. But
Yeah.
I get them on the Pro Tools and all that, and get them right in the audio too and all that. So.
And he did mention Pro Tools. This guy actually used to do music, but I mean, that's another story for another time. Let's talk about why you're here, man. You actually have several projects that are out right now, as well as a project that will be coming on March 15th, correct?
Right, March 15th.
Okay, let's go ahead and get into the book you wrote first. Let's go ahead and talk about that.
Well, yeah, Priceless Dream, the story of the Dallas Cowboys #1 fan. Miss Price, through mutual friends, I was able to have the opportunity to write her biography with her, and she's just an amazing woman. I'm talking about growing up in Dallas during before desegregation, the whole, not being able to sit where you want to sit on the bus and segregated everything and not being able to go into the stores, and this whole history and her whole life has just been a story of perseverance. And it's like the Cowboys and football became like therapy for her.
Right.
So that's how she became known, what she is now. It's the Dallas Cowboys #1 fan, but the book is about so much more than that. So it's, it's not a football story. It's a story of an amazing woman, a wonderful woman. Took me in, made me feel like family.
Right.
Go down to Dallas, worked on the book with her. Some of those days waking up, she'd make breakfast, and some of the interviews while the bacon's crackling and all that stuff. So man, she's just phenomenal. I can't say enough about her. So everybody should check that out. Just it's really, really, really a testimony that she has.
And it's interesting, man. She's definitely like one of the most notorious people in that building. I actually saw part of, I believe it was a documentary, and it had LeBron James on there. It had Terrell Owens on there. Like, she's very known, very popular within that city, within that football spectrum. So where could the people check this book out?
Man, you can find the book at BarnesandNoble.com, Amazon.com, Priceless Dream, story of the Dallas Cowboys #1 fan. So it's gotten a good reaction, so I'm pleased with it.
That's amazing, man. So he also writing books. I love it, man. I love it.
It's all different tools to get the same thing done. I just look at it, from the music to the books to film. It's all right, and then you get to get the reaction from the people. So I always tell people, if you're a real writer, you can write, So I'm just blessed that I knew what my gift was early. You know, I can't beat people in a lot of math and science contests and all of this, but from 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, people knew what I was with that pen.
Yeah.
Seriously.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, another thing we got to talk about, because like I did mention at the top of this interview, we're talking about March 15th. We're talking about A Bitter Pill to Swallow. That's your first documentary you actually produced, correct?
Right. It's my first documentary. It'll be my third film overall, but first documentary.
All right. So let's go ahead and talk about it, because it's definitely a lot going on as far as drug usage within this country, better yet within the world, and a lot of it is affecting home. When I say home, I mean us as African Americans. So what actually made you or inspired you to do this documentary?
It's just personal, just like you said, is really affecting our community. So the way we grew up, you know, weed, the crack epidemic, whatever that was, and it was like pills was something over here that maybe you saw on TV in a movie that some white kids on Growing Pains or something. Yeah. Maybe Kirk Cameron might have had an episode about it. You know, it was always in that context. Or better yet, Saved by the Bell, you know. Oh, exactly.
Yeah. I'm so excited. Yeah. So we seen it every now and then.
Yes, he did. Right. Have her thing with that. So it was always that. So then just personally, it you know, when it hit my family and people around me, and I'm knowing, you know, I'm oblivious to it. I don't know what this is. And it's just like I'm hearing stories. You know, you hear stories through the grapevine. Your auntie over here worried. Oh, this is going on with him. Like, what? He doing what?
Wow.
And, you know, and she doing what? And it's like, it's puzzling because the behavior they describing, it's stealing, breaking in. I got to lock him out the house when I leave. I'm like, wait a minute. You know, we associate that with somebody being on crack. You talking about stealing from your family? But then I'm like, okay, at his age, he not on crack. This dude is this, or she not on crack at this age. It's like, what else? So I'm the type of person, I'm going to start researching, and it came full circle to what? It's the pills, and this is before it became popular. Right. You know, in rap music, like it is now. And with the artists. So the more and more I learned about it, it turned into like a personal crusade. I'd just be somebody would bring something up. I don't know what's going on with my son. I'd be like, hold on, like, do we be doing this? He be doing that. I start be able to know the symptoms. And I'm like, hold on, you know, maybe you need to talk to him about this. Maybe this is how you should go about it. I start becoming like an unofficial spokesperson, or, you know, counselor to people. And then after a while, it was just like, wait a minute, to a filmmaker, like, do a documentary, you know? Because before that, I just said, I'm going to tell, you know, I was thinking maybe I write a book. Maybe I, you know, just go around and tell people. And that's what brought me to the documentary. I just want to reach as many people as I can with that message of just, you know what this is. You know, just have that awareness, know what you're really dealing with.
And one thing that's great about this documentary is actually taking you places like as far as film festivals, as far as you were actually featured in the Memphis Flyer, CBS, what's that, Live at 9?
Yeah.
As well. I mean, you've been, so let's go ahead and get into what are the top popular drugs on the street of choice as far as pills are concerned? Because, like I say, I hear a lot of it in music. They call it beans, or, you know, uppers, downers, all of that stuff. What are some of the top drugs of choice out there?
Well, what you hear about all the time are the opioids. Okay. So now anytime I bring up this movie, people automatically say, yeah, that opioid epidemic, I heard about that. And rightfully so. It's a big thing, but that's only one of 3 classes of drugs, really. Right. And then for me, and what started, you know, to come to my awareness was the Xanax, the bars. You know, that's hitting more of the black community. So once again, you know, opioids are really, really negatively affecting people, which they're basically your pain pills, almost, you know, all your Lortabs and all of those things that they're prescribed for pain.
Prescription, right.
Which is sad in and of itself, you know, because people legitimately getting hooked from that. But the Xanax, you know, I'm hearing about bars, you know, my little people, the people I'm talking about who going through it, they bars, and I'm watching their behavior. So I'm like, what is bars? I didn't even know what bars was. What are they talking about? So they're like, oh, Xanax. Like, oh, these the effects? This can happen? So then I was kind of startled pretty much. So once again, the Xanax going to be a lot cheaper. Yeah. You know, so you start to learn, oh, okay, the people on the opioids, you probably got, it's a bigger habit. You know what I mean? It costs a lot more. So once again, the ones that's going to hit our community the hardest, just like crack compared to powder or whatever, is the cheaper ones. Right, absolutely. So that's what that started to be. But the problem with that is this is the one that's going to affect you mentally. So whereas with the opioids, you might have that habit and you might go sit down somewhere, or you might at the least, at the most, I should say, go do something, act out to get money to get it if you get that bad on it.
Right.
But it's not really going to affect you in a way where you just do something out of your character, like go carjack somebody, rob somebody, shoot somebody when you might not normally.
Right.
But you start to realize with the Xanax, especially mixed with alcohol.
Yeah.
Because that's what people do. If you partying, you instantly go mix it with the alcohol.
Right.
When you look at what it said, the first thing it says not to do,
Yeah.
do not mix this with alcohol.
Exactly.
But when you partying, that's what you're going to do. So that's the one of choice that I'm realizing, and everything in that family. So it's other little benzos now. That family is called the benzodiazepines. Benzos for sure, but it's like Klonopin is another one. But the Xanax is still that main one. And it's not just in the black community, but again, a lot of times we already have issues that it's like when you pour gasoline on that fire,
boom,
it affects us a little differently, with some of the issues already going on. So that's one of the main ones nobody's talking about that's really affecting people.
Within this documentary, you actually interviewed a few families and a few people that's affected by this. Was it at all difficult or painful for you to actually sit through this process, just hearing some of these stories?
Surprisingly, not as much as you would think, because the difficult part was what even led me to do the documentary, hearing these stories with people, I love very much in person.
Right.
That part was harder. So by the time we got to actually filming the documentary, it was therapeutic in a way. People actually wanted to talk about it. So, whether it's somebody in there who was addicted to it themselves, or a mother or a father, in their minds, they're like, yeah, people need to know this so that they can catch this early on, so maybe they don't have to go through this. One father in there, he has spent $10,000 a pop trying to get his son off of it, like
wow.
3 times. Yeah. Trying to get him clean and having to go through this because he couldn't get off of it. So, it really was, I found that people were willing to talk. They were open, and that really made it easy.
Yeah. So why is it so important for people to speak out?
It's important for people to speak out because it's a conversation that hasn't been had yet.
Right.
So, again, because what a lot of people will say, they'll give defense, well, that's my habit. Everybody do something. She drinks, she smokes cigarettes. Yeah. It's like, but all of those conversations have been had. So that's valid. I'm not trying to condemn nobody. Like, is this, this is my drug of choice, leave me alone. It's like, okay, but let's make sure that you understand what it is. And with everything else, we've had to have that conversation. Cigarettes, we've had to have that conversation. So now people don't go into it blind. It's like, if you still smoke, okay, that's what you do, but you understand the risks because they've been talked a lot. The crack epidemic, we had those conversations. You don't see nobody walking around in denial.
Right.
If they own it, they know what they own.
They know what they're doing.
And they've either accepted it or they fighting it, but it's no denial. Like, this is nothing.
Right.
You're not saying that.
I can shake it. It's nothing.
Exactly. And even alcohol, most people, most adults drink alcohol, if just socially here and there a little bit, but everybody knows you might be that person. We all know the person who it's just not for you.
Right.
It don't mix with you right. You can't just do it socially. It's a bigger problem for you. That's a conversation we've had to have with people. So with this, it's important for people to speak out because that conversation hasn't been had. It's still in the shadows. It's easy to believe that because it's prescription, that somehow is better than this other stuff. Well, it's no big deal because doctors prescribe this.
Exactly.
So that's why the conversation need to be had. So at least everybody have a fair chance to know what you're dealing with before you even go down that road. And if you already went down that road, now you can say, I don't want nobody to come behind me. Because once you realize it, I know you don't want that for your little brother, little sister, son, daughter, cousin. You don't want that for them. So once you realize it, I would think you would want to help other people stay off of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. One thing I definitely want to talk about, I'm going to be candid for a moment. Of course, everybody, we were teenagers before,
Right.
I had dibbled and dabbed in marijuana, that was my thing at the time. But I never could bring myself to take pills because I had, in my mind, control over my body when I smoked, But pills, from my perception, that's something that you get to hallucinating, you get to having all these types of feelings and emotions that you can't overcome. And that was one of the reasons why I never, decided to do that. However, this generation, and as well as generations, one generation or 2 generations prior, they got this thing they call pre-gaming. You know, pre-gaming, that's basically where they're getting ready to go to a party, event, maybe even the prom, and they decide to pop a couple pills and drink a little something, smoke a little something, you know, creating this mixture to get them into the mood to where they can go have the ultimate or supreme time, as well as doing it once they get to wherever they're going. How do you feel about something like pre-gaming? Because like I say, that's the thing. And I had to learn that from my nephews, you know, that teenagers, you know, I had to look, because I'm like, pre-gaming, to me that sounds like basketball. I'm thinking LeBron James, he dribbling, you know, shooting around. No, it's something totally different to the culture now. So how do you feel about that?
Man, that's another thing that's so scary about the field, because that mentality is not new. Yeah, like you said, we've all been young, so the idea of trying to get a buzz or something before you get to the party, you know, for me it was 8-ball, malt liquor, whatever kind of, or St. Ives for the minute or whatever, you know, but it was mostly beer, some other kind of drink, something like that, you know, that as a teenager we still shouldn't have been dabbling in. But again,
it's true.
Once you understand what the effects are, what the potential consequences are, that behavior is not new. People have done that, but now it's like, okay, they're doing it with something that you might not come back from, you know, as easier. You could have one bad experience and now you're a person who are schizophrenic, or you are bipolar. Now you have a diagnosed mental disability from taking this. So yeah, that's the scary part, because, you know, young people is, you know, we grow up, we live, we learn, we do a lot of things sometimes we shouldn't do. But it's like, man, to do something that could start there and now all of a sudden your entire life is basically, you know, it's basically either thrown away, or now you have a handicap that you have to overcome or fight, you know, your whole life, you know. Now you have to get real medical attention, you know, and a lot of people don't have that insurance that's going to pay for you to try to get off a drug, even if you have insurance. That's not necessarily something that's going to be, you know, paid for. So who has $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 just laying around to try to check in somewhere, you know, whatever somebody going to try to charge you. So yeah, but that with kids, you know, that's why one of the main things with this is I want people to know I'm not being judgmental. This is not pointing the finger like, how could you do this? You know, I know you can do this. I'm sitting here saying, if this was the popular drug when I was a teenager or all that, I can't say for sure I wouldn't have. You know, I don't know if all my favorite rappers was rapping about it and the people I was in the car with was like, here, we got one. I don't know. You know, I might have said no, I might not have. I might have been right with them popping it. So yeah, people have to understand that this is not those things. You know, let's have an honest conversation. I'm not advocating no other drugs, but this is not that.
And one thing that makes it a lot more accessible is the fact that it is a prescription drug, because I mean, crack cocaine, you might have to go out and search for it in the street. However, your grandma might have some Oxycontin or some lower tabs in her, you know, basement. I mean, not basement, but in her bathroom, you know, because she has pain or issues that she's dealing with. Let's talk about that, as well as doctor shopping. Let's go ahead and expound on it.
Oh yeah, man, with doctor shopping, and I have medical professionals talking about that in there. But yeah, and that's another thing I experienced firsthand with, you know, somebody close to me. But this idea of going from doctor to doctor, I have this symptom, I had this symptom, oh yeah, my back, I need that, I gotta have that, or I'm gonna be right. And you have people, if you you know, if you have some charisma about yourself, and you know, the gift of gab, you know, you have people banned from doctors who now get on lists like, don't fall for it. When you see this person coming, this is not what it is. So yeah, you have people who go out of their way and go in here knowing exactly what they want, know what behaviors to try to mimic to get it prescribed for them and get it that way. But what's even scarier than that is just the fact that it's out here like everything else. And with, you know, when it comes to the marijuana, it can grow. But when you figure you have that many people out who have that many to sell, it's coming from a place where this have to be orchestrated. That's why I always tell people. People call it conspiracy theories, all of that you want. It's like, listen, nobody's in their bathroom growing pills. So for you to be able to supply an entire country basically at the same time, where you can go out here somewhere and be like, hey, who got them? And somebody gonna have them, you know, which is their business, whatever they doing with their life. Just mathematically, that lets you know it's something bigger going on. Somebody wants it to be enough pills out here on the street. All of this is not one person forging a prescription or a person hitting a doctor here and there. You know, this that's an operation.
Right, absolutely, I agree. So we're talking about March 15th. Where all will people be able to access this documentary?
They'll be able to get an Amazon Video, Amazon Prime. You'll be able to just stream it if you're already a Prime member. You can purchase the download on Amazon, purchase the DVD from there as well. You can also come to AnwarJamison.com. If you're looking to buy the hard copies, it's always great to get it from the independent artists. We do believe in cutting out the middleman, when we can. That's what we need to do a little bit more of. Deal directly with the people, For this one, I actually just said I'd have gave this one away for free when I first did it,
Right.
And you spend all those hours, you got to do something. I mean, to take all those hours to put it together. But this is one where I was like, man, this is really just a mission project. I really don't care. This is not the same thing as, I want to make sure that X amount of people get it so I can get to the next thing. This is just, look, see this,
Right.
Get it. So we'll be doing different speaking engagements. I had the opportunity to do some churches, schools, things like that, viewings we've done, and I'll continue to do that too as it comes out. Just trying to get it to as many people as possible.
Wonderful, wonderful. Last thing I got for you is, let's say if there's anybody out there and they may be struggling with pill addiction, or if they know someone that's struggling with pill addiction, what advice would you have for them?
The advice I would give to them is just, it's hard. It's easy to say, talk to them, either side. And maybe this movie can open up that, because I know it has for some people.
Right.
They were able to just show it. Let me get that link. I was letting people get early versions because they had somebody they wanted to talk to.
Right.
And it's like, if you watch this, now we can talk.
Create dialogue.
So it actually, exactly.
Yeah.
After watching it. So that's the main thing, is just, hopefully, it have to be a scary place. I can't imagine having this habit, knowing that I can't kick it by myself. First realizing that, man, if I wake up in the morning, I'm not right. If I don't, until I get one.
Right.
That got to be a scary feeling the first time you realize it's that real. So I can understand why you don't want to talk to anybody about that. I can see, but you have to trust somebody. Find somebody you can trust, find somebody you can confide in. And if the shoe is on the other foot and you're a parent, you're a friend, you're somebody, don't worry about the fact that they're going to get upset, that they're going to be in denial. They're going to do all of that stuff at first. But it's more important that we get a handle on it, because we losing a lot of people, a lot of bright minds, and we saw this happen.
Yeah.
A lot of us in our families, the black community, know something about this crack epidemic. A lot of us had to have some tough conversations. We lost some of the best and brightest people who could have did some of the greatest things.
Most talented people, you're right.
And
Absolutely
now it's
right.
like, here we are again. We gonna let that happen again? Like, nah, we need to do something about it. If I can do anything about it, that's what I'm here trying to do, just so that don't happen again. That took a lot of people, so, yeah.
Man, I definitely got to say, you definitely doing your part, and I appreciate that. You guys make sure that you check out A Bitter Pill to Swallow. I'm talking about March 15th. We'll be on the platforms at the bottom of the screen. You can see it, of course. Got to say thank you again for coming on the show, brother.
Appreciate you, Brink.
Now back to more Brink TV.